Well, welcome to my channel, Mispronounced Adventures. My name's Alex, and welcome to my 4x4 MAN TGE overland campervan build to replace my much loved Ford Transit, which I spent the last 4 winters living in the Arctic in. Now, one of my most recent videos was how to convert a single driver's seat into a single passenger seat for the MAN TGE or the Crafter. And all in, cost me about £600, which is significantly cheaper than buying one. And it's not really that difficult to do. This video follows on from that because if you're using a driving seat as a passenger seat, the armrest, if you have an armrest version, is on the wrong side. And this video is about retrofitting armrests. This video is working with CJL Leisure because they provided me with the important bracket, which is one of their new products, to retrofit the OEM armrests. These are my 2 seats, and because these are both originally drivers, I've both got left-hand armrests, and I want to add the right-hand armrest to the passenger seat. Whilst I'm at it, I've also doubled all the components, so I'm going to add the left-hand one to the driving as well. But this would work for left or right armrests if your driving seat didn't have any or a passenger seat didn't have any. So what do you need? Once again, a trip to MAN, and I used PartLink24 to get an exploded diagram of the seats so I could find all the part codes for the armrests and order the components. Now, for the MAN parts, there's only 3 components you need. In my case, you need the right-hand side armrest, which is adjustable. You need the right-hand side plastics, which goes on the end of there. And you need the bolt. For the OEM armrest, my invoice for about £130 plus VAT. This was about £10. I think this was 70 pence plus VAT. And the brackets for them, which CJL are making, are about 50 odd quid. And whilst I went to MAN directly to buy the armrests, you could just buy the OEM parts as well from CJL as a kit. And since I'm doing 2, I've doubled it up. So something to know about these seats is apparently the bolt holes for if you did have it spec'd with the armrest are already there. However, because these have the lumbar support, my understanding is I need to move the lumbar mechanism up to some other pre-existing bolt holes for when it would have its armrest, and then I use the holes which are now available for the armrest itself. So I will have to put some holes in the material at one point. But first we need to get, well, the upholstery off the chair. So we're going to pull the lumbar support off, which just pulls off, and now I need to figure out how to get the rest of the upholstery off. Actually, we'll probably move this forwards. Now I'm just going to remove the existing armrest because I'm going to need to. How do these armrests work? All right, I've got some trim clips just to help pop off the plastics. There we go. And the bolt is an M10 spline. So I'm just going to get this off so I can. Right, original bolt removed. Now I need to figure out how to get the material off. Right, at the bottom of the upholstery is just held together with this sort of like clipping mechanism. And I don't really know, apart from forcing it, how you're meant to get it out. Maybe it's significantly easier if you just take the plastic trim off. In here is where I'm trying to get to. I'm hoping if I can just get a screwdriver into the very end of the bit, I can then just start forcing it out. Oh yeah, probably. We'll just move you over here slightly because you're getting in my way. Showing this upholstery clip on camera is quite difficult, but here's the J channel. The red bit is the front of the upholstery, and then the blue bit is the back of the upholstery, which locks into it. But after you flick out one end, then you can flick out the entire strip pretty easily. You just get a tiny edge, it then pops out. Hopefully that can now allow us to undress the seat. Bit of effort to get it off the first bit. Right, one bit down. Now need to remove the foam. Get the headrest off. Don't really need to take the whole thing off. So here's the important bit revealed. This is the lumbar support. And that needs to get moved to those holes up there, which just looks like a Torx bit. And then we will see which are the other holes it uses. So let's get that off. Well, my Torx 20 fits, but it's a bit loose. Now there is, it seems, a little bit of a retaining piece there, which I am just going to snip off because it is in the way for what I want to do. So I'm just going to take that bit of plastic off there. Unfortunately, trimming off the little bit of plastic didn't turn out very well on camera, so the first error here is the little tiny bit of plastic which I just trimmed off with my Stanley knife, and it corresponds with this little notch here in the metalwork. The new location doesn't have that notch, so that tab is in the way, and the screw holes are going to keep it located in the right spot anyway. There we go. Now it should nicely fit in there. Right, that's all remounted. I got these from CJL pretty much the day they were announced, so I don't have the fitting instructions. The problem I have at the minute is these holes all line up, apart from this is in the way. So I'm going to take that out and move that down to there, which is sort of the cable which holds the lumbar support, and then it should fit nicely. And I'm going to move it into there instead, which looks like it should still work. Yep, now it should fit. This is the old location of one of the lumbar support cables, and this is the new location I moved it down to. It doesn't fit quite as well, but it fits loosely in the hole, but it shouldn't come out. You could always add a cable tie to reinforce it if you wanted to. So the final kit does actually come with bolts. Mine just didn't, mine was just the brackets. So this is the bracket. This hole is fine. This one I'm going to widen to 6mm, and then there's a mark there, which maybe it's missing on other chairs, which I'm going to line up to drill the last one in, and then I'm going to bolt it all up. Now then, let's go for one in there. Well, let's drill out the third. Well, there we go, installed. Next, it's going to be getting the foam all back in the right spot, and any modifications to the foam which is needed. I'm just going to trim off the foam a bit as well. There we go. Right, time to get the upholstery back on. And we'll put the upholstery back on. Where the two bits of foam meet, there's some Velcro in the back corner, which you just got to work back in to reattach itself. Right, holes next. Here. Right, lumbar handle. Excellent. Let's put this on. Right, so it does interfere with the lumbar handle a little bit. Well, that's probably because the bracket is designed for the non-lumbar version of the chair. If the bracket just came out a few more millimeters, it would probably clear the handle completely. But it's not exactly difficult to install this version with the lumbar support anyway, make a few changes. But let's get the other bit back on. And the final job was just to get the lower plastics back on again, and then repeat it and do it on the other side. And whilst it took me about 2 hours to do the first seat, when I knew how to do it, the driver's seat only took me about 28 minutes in total, and I didn't need to remove the lower plastic trim at all. I was filming this on a Sunday, so I thought there's no real point in me messaging CJL for the instruction manual for this, which I referenced to earlier. But whilst I was installing it, or just as I finished installing them, I did an Instagram story, and within a few minutes of me posting that Instagram story, I got an email sending me the instructions. So the instructions are there, I just didn't use them. But if I'm honest, it's pretty self-explanatory, and the instructions pretty much mirrored what I had to do, only there's a few extra steps for me, because I had the lumbar support to deal with. And the installation couldn't really be simpler. It's 3 bolts, one of them's pre-threaded, one of them you have to drill out to 6mm, and then there's a new hole you have to make to 6mm as well, and bolt it in. The most difficult part was probably getting the upholstery off. The first chair probably took about 2 hours, and the driving seat took about 28 minutes, after you know how to do it. Figuring out that clip was the most difficult bit for the bottom of the upholstery, but after you learn that, you just have to flick it off at one end with a screwdriver, and then the whole thing comes off. So if you are interested in retrofitting armrests to your driving seat or your single passenger seat, consider using CJL's bracket, and there'll be links about that in the description below. And if you need the armrest as well, they also sell that. Other videos of mine you might find useful is my video about retrofitting a single driver's seat into a single passenger seat and how you do that conversion. And maybe I'll do some more seat related videos in the future. Potentially, I am considering a swivel seat or a swivel base, so if anyone's got any recommendations on models of swivel base to use, please do put them in the comments below so I can check them out, because I am considering, for the single passenger seat, getting a swivel base for it. Maybe even I'll look at doing a retrofit of heated seats. If you've enjoyed this sort of video, consider checking out the rest of the channel and the rest of the MAN TGE build, or maybe some of the Arctic stuff where I take my van too. Or if you really like the MAN TGE build, consider joining the memberships. Plus, there's other things like the discount codes I have for Autotherm, being a brand ambassador for them, and I'm using their diesel air heaters and diesel hydronic heaters in this van. Or I work for Roma, which is a UK lithium battery company. I do their customer design consultations. So if you're designing a camper van and you need your electrics, I help customers design their electrical systems. Or Amazon links and so on, and other bits and bobs that I use, but really I just want to make content for you guys to enjoy. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye!